28th of June 1975, I was camping in the woods with two friends of mine. It was about 10 p.m. We had just finished pitching the tent when one of my friends spotted bright lights shining through the trees in the distance. We thought it was people walking through the woods with torches, but then all of a sudden all the lights went out. Then a giant halo of light rose and disappeared into the dark night sky. All three of us were intrigued and decided to investigate. We made our way through the woods, and after about 5 minutes we began to hear rustling leaves and twigs snapping. So we stopped dead in our tracks and looked around in the darkness. We could still hear the rustling leaves but couldn't see anything. Then all of a sudden a deer came running past us, making us all jump with fright. Not long after, we gave up on finding anything interesting and decided to head back to the tent. But just as we were about to, I spotted a clearing in the trees and thought I saw something move. We moved closer to the clearing to get a better look and peered through the leaves of a bush. We could see 2 or 3 figures standing in a huddled group, and more were emerging from the trees to join them. We wasn't close enough to see them in detail, but from where we stood, they looked to have strange thin bodies with large oversized heads, nothing like I had seen before. There must have been 6 or 8 more now standing in the group, and more kept emerging from the trees. They didn't appear to be moving or making any sounds. They were just standing still with their heads bowed to the ground. It all looked weird and surreal. Then we heard the sound of rustling leaves directly behind us and got the fright of our lives when we turned. A tall, alien-looking creature stood inches away from us with pale green skin and dark-coloured eyes. But as we all quickly turned, one of my friends accidentally plunged a sharpened stick he had been carrying into the creature's body. The strange creature let out an eerie, almighty roar of pain as we watched it drop to its knees. Then the same sounds came from the group in the clearing, before they began to move quickly in our direction. Me and my 2 friends ran as fast as we could through the woods, running in and out of the trees. I was as scared as hell and genuinely thought I was going to die. After a few moments I stopped running and looked around for my friends, but I couldn't see them. I could still hear the eerie roar of the aliens echoing through the forest. For some reason I thought I might be safer up a tree, so I climbed one as high as I could. Then within minutes I saw one of my friends running towards me. I called out to him. He stopped and looked up, shouting, "They've taken Adam, our other friend." Then at that moment I saw a halo of light fall from the sky, descending into the woods in the distance, and then not long after rise and disappear into the darkness, and the forest fell silent again. When we returned home in the early hours of the morning, we reported what we had seen and that our friend was missing to the police. They searched the forest but couldn't find any trace of aliens or Adam. Days later, we were informed Adam was back home, safe and sound, though he had no recollection of where he had been for the last 2 days. About a week after the incident in the forest, my home was visited by 2 men. I had told my parents I didn't want to speak to anyone about the incident, so when I heard the men come into the house, I hid in a cupboard. I could see the men through a crack in the door. They were dressed identical, in smart grey suits with highly polished shoes. One of the men was asking my mother where I was and what she knew about the incident, while the other surveyed the room with his eyes. He looked towards the cupboard I was hiding in and stared at it suspiciously for a few seconds. Then he blinked and looked away. But it's when he blinked I thought I saw something strange about his eyes, a glimpse of darkness that I had seen before. Then I heard the man ask my mum if Adam would be at home. She told them she didn't know, and then they left. I ran through the back streets to Adam's house to warn him about the men. He had become increasingly nervous and anxious since the incidents in the forest. He was having nightmares and visions being held captive by the creatures, and that he was beginning to remember more and more about what happened in the 2 days he was missing. I arrived at Adam's house too late. Across the street I saw the 2 men escorting Adam out of his house into a black car and drive away. I never saw Adam again for about 2 years. His family had moved from our town, but I caught sight of him once on a ferry going to the Isle of Wight. He said I looked familiar, but he couldn't remember who I was.